Welcome to another episode of Palm Harbor Local. I'm your host, Florida native and real estate ninja, Donnie Hathaway. You know, I started this podcast because I'm extremely passionate about connecting you with the people and the local businesses that make Palm Harbor so special. Palm Harbor, Florida is a great place to live, work, and play. It has everything you could dream of, from the food, the outdoors, the lifestyle, to the people in the community. I wanted to create a podcast that connected the community and inspired everyone to live better. To join this community and stay up to date on all things Palm Harbor, visit my website, it's palmharborlocal.com, and sign up there to join the locals. And remember, together, we keep Palm Harbor local. So today we have Pablo Arnaud on the podcast today. I'm excited to chat with you, Pablo, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Honor being here.
So your business, ARNA Construction, you do construction projects, obviously, and then home inspections as well, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so tell me a little bit about that and kind of when you started, how you got started in that business.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donnie, for the question. So I've been in construction for just shy of 27 years or so.
So you have a little bit of experience.
Yeah, just swing the hammer a couple times. Goes all the way back to Puerto Rico, which, interesting, I started construction in commercial construction.
Okay.
In restaurant construction for big fast food chains in Puerto Rico, which were Church's Chicken, Pollo Tropical, and Chili's. They were all under the same franchise owner. I was in my early 20s, still in college, doing my civil engineering degree.
Mm-hmm.
Get my job first time out. Big mess on a project. Oh, here comes the guy, Pablo. And I didn't know how to answer questions.
Oh, yeah.
I had no experience. So right away, I said, has anybody looked at the details on the engineering drawings? I don't know how I came up with that, but it saved me.
Yeah.
From that point on, I kept gaining experience. Back in 2004, we had an opportunity to expand my experience into residential. An opportunity with Lennar Homes popped up in Claremont, Florida, Central Florida.
Okay.
So market, it was popping at that time. People were buying and big mess just before the crash.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an excellent experience in residential and understanding how houses are built here in Florida.
Sure.
And how different it was from building a cement house in Puerto Rico to a wood frame house. And like I tell everybody, you take a hammer, you swing the hammer at a concrete block, and it smashes.
Mm-hmm.
Swing the hammer at 2x4, nothing happens.
It flexes maybe a little bit.
Maybe a mark, a hammerhead mark, but nobody realizes that wood could be stronger than cement block.
Sure.
But anyhow, at that point, I went through the crash, and an opportunity came up with Disney. So that, looking at growing, expanding, and becoming a well-rounded construction person, for lack of better terms.
Sure.
Went to Disney, spent 8 years at Disney, rebuilding hotels, theme parks, roller coaster rides, what they call Main Street on Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
That was a big project. Give it or take, park was built in the 70s, in the 60s. So it was time
to update
it.
Yeah.
Everything. And roller coasters at the time were being bought from Europe and other countries. So those roller coasters do not meet Florida building codes. So you're buying a European roller coaster, for lack of better terms, and you have to reinforce it in such a way that it would meet Florida building code.
Interesting.
Very much so. And Disney, not being powerful enough, they have their own building code that supersedes the Florida building code.
Oh, wow.
So long story short, all this experience is like, I call them degrees.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity to become director of projects for Universal Orlando on the hotel side. So that was very interesting, managing the budgets, developing costs for construction and room renovation and lobby renovation, restaurants, bars, sushi bars. So after a while, pandemic hit, and my wife was a school teacher, pre-K, special education. We used to come here all the time, and she said, what if I get a job in Palm Harbor or surrounding areas? I said, honey, you do that. I'll put in my 2-week notice I'll start from crash. And sure thing, she got a job right away in the summer of 2020, and put everything away, sold everything in Orlando.
Left the corporate world.
Oh my God, yes. Was able to take off the suit, put on my flip-flop, and came over.
Yeah.
And fortunately started going to open houses, meeting realtors, meeting agents, offering home inspection services. And unfortunately, one thing led to another, and back into construction.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I had my GC license and my home inspector license, respectively, from 2007 and 2010. So, let's dust them off and put them to work.
Yeah.
And thank God, it's been a blessing.
So going to open houses, so did you have the intent of I want to start an inspection company, or you were just kind of just getting your feet wet?
I was basically, number one, knowing people. I'm opening a new market in Palm Harbor. Don't know anybody. Just my wife and my son.
Yeah.
And started going to the open houses with the intention of, hello, I'm a home inspector, but I'm also a licensed contractor.
Yeah.
Shall you need my assistance? Here's my phone number.
Yeah.
And sure thing, after January of 2021, the phone started ringing.
Yeah.
After 2 or 3 months of, usually things slow down at this time of the year.
Sure.
As soon as Thanksgiving week starts approaching, everybody on the real estate market kind of slows down.
Yep.
Second week of January, everybody's like, okay, time to work.
Yeah.
And fortunately, people started calling, hey, remember that you met me at this open house? Hey, oh my God, I need an inspection. Can you do it right away?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Here I am.
Yeah.
And since I don't have any bosses, I can set the price to accommodate. And I started doing a lot of low income.
Yeah.
And, and modifying the inspections to meet the basic needs of a structure. Because at that point, what the buyers wants to make sure is that they have a solid home.
Good bones, yeah.
Whether the paint that they have on the wall, they don't like it, is not a big significant issue.
Right.
But making sure that it's a good bones, good utilities, good systems.
Yep.
You're good to go.
So I think it's interesting too that, and I want to bring this up because I think a lot of people, when you start a business or start something new, sometimes we get impatient, right? And myself too. And you expect results immediately. You mentioned it took you 2 to 3 months, maybe even of boots to the ground. I'm going out, door knocking, I'm meeting people, shaking hands before business started coming in, right?
Absolutely.
Did you, what was that transition like for you? Is that you just you were in the right headspace? You expected that to happen, or what were your thoughts there?
So obviously
especially coming from the corporate world, right? Where you're busy, you're successful, and now you're starting over almost.
So this is, listening to your other podcast, and interesting enough, I think we all share the same foundation, for lack.
Yeah, right.
You start, and you might have a little savings to take you through a few weeks, maybe a couple months, but after a little while, you start getting antsy. You start getting a little bit desperate. So, the fact that if you're in the right set of mind, you got to focus on the business development.
Yeah.
Because everybody on a corporate world or in any regular 8 to 5 job, you have a paycheck at the end of the week.
Yeah.
I did it. Everybody that starts a new business, we don't have a paycheck. So that really drives, and you really got to be mentally focused on what your passion is. Mm-hmm. What are you selling? Are you selling a home inspection? Are you selling construction? You got to focus. So, it only makes you stronger, the trial and errors.
Yeah, going
to
through
see
that.
What is your sales pitch that will stick and make your phone ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that took, like I said, a couple months. Obviously, it was the slower month, but it helps you focus on doing online marketing.
Right.
Social media marketing.
Sure.
Which is free. And it worked out. And I would say a big part of my work nowadays is through social media.
Sure. So did you, like, growing up, did you ever think you would be a business owner? Did you ever have like any dreams or aspirations to own a business?
I sure didn't.
No.
I don't think I did. I think I was always, I grew up swimming competitively, and obviously back in my days there was no Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
There was not such a thing as a professional swimmer.
Sure.
Obviously I was not at that level, but it's not like you can go to semi-pro and play ball.
Right.
It's not like I have a semi-pro swimming career.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's like, okay, I gotta really focus on school and
find a job, right?
And find a job. And at that point, you're young, you don't understand what's the future, and so I think working almost 20 some years in the corporate world made me find out what I really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
From like I enjoy the inspections, to be able to give back either to the agents or to the buyer, hey, you have this condition, which it can be solved by this.
Yeah.
And different to a regular home inspector that you're not allowed to make comments. But since I'm backed up by a GC license and experience, I take it upon myself to make the recommendations and provide you what is an approximate budget that it would take to repair that condition, if needed, or a life, or how long or how soon do you have to do those repairs. So it sure was something that it was developed through the years of working for large corporations.
Yeah. And then kind of like seeing that, this is great, but maybe not aligned with ultimately what I want.
Yes. It was just about finding your passion.
Yeah.
It sure was an awakening thing.
Yeah. So what do you, your experience, like you're not just experiencing like in just one type of construction, right? Like you have a vast experience in different types of buildings and structures and all that kind of stuff. What is it that you enjoy about construction or inspections, and like, what do you enjoy about that?
What I really enjoy is the fact I don't want to be another GC. I don't want to be just another contractor or just another inspector. I want to go out and develop a little bit more personal to find out what is the client's need, or the buyers, or the agent, or what is the whole situation.
Yeah.
Because that gap, it's greatly missed in a lot of transactions.
Yeah.
And I really like to develop the understanding that you're not just going to go in for just to get a piece of paper and relieve the agent from the liability. I want to take it furthermore. Say, hey, you're buying, for example, investors. You're buying this property just because it's the right price. Well, you're buying a wood frame house, a 1920s, 1930s. You're going to have a severely amount of wood damage. You're going to have structural issues. That is what drives me. How can you prioritize your budget, not only to make it cosmetically pretty so that it can be flipped or resold for your exit strategy, but how do you make sure you're offering a solid product, that has my name behind it?
Yeah, sure.
I want to make sure that, you have a solid foundation, you got solid walls and a good roof and a good electrical system with no cloth wiring from the 50s, 60s, 20s, whatever.
Yeah.
And that your homeowner's insurance can meet a good, policy, a good rate.
Right.
So I tend to do my jobs and my budget based on those factors, on the 4 points and the structure.
Yeah.
Once we cover those, then let's put makeup on the pig.
Yeah. And I love that too, right? Because I think that's where like a lot of deals kind of go south is, there's going to be issues. There's going to be things wrong with the home, right? Like that's what happens as a product deteriorates. People, it's lived in, it's used, like things break down, that sort of stuff. So that there's going to be issues. But most of them, all of them are solvable, right? For the most part, right? Unless the home is deemed like unlivable, in the rare case. But for the most part, like things can be fixed. And I think where a lot of deals fall apart is just the buyers or agents not understanding that, like, how it can be fixed, right? Like what that process is like. Instead, they just get caught up in like, oh wow, that's a lot of money, or that's a big problem. What's up, Palm Harbor? It's your host, Donnie Hathaway. If you are looking to stay up to date with all things Palm Harbor, then visit my website. It's palmharborlocal.com. Super simple. You can sign up there, join the locals, where I'll be sharing more information on local events, local history, and what's happening in Palm Harbor. I really want to create and add more value to you as a listener for spending your valuable time tuning into my podcast. So join me there, keep listening, and remember, together, we keep Palm Harbor local.
Yes, and that is absolutely right. It's part of the reason why right now we're seeing so much devastation down south.
Yeah.
I'm very confident that the vast majority of the structures that were flattened out by the storm were older.
Yeah.
They were not retrofitted to meet the current building code. All the building code is there for is to make sure that you have a solid structure. Sure. And that you have solid utilities or proper utilities. And a big mistake that happens out there in the same scenario, the unknown, well, the people don't want to spend a lot of money doing the proper repairs. So they find Joe Mo, hey, I'm a handyman, I can fix it. Well, they're not a licensed contractor. They don't understand building code. And some of them might do, because I work with a lot of them, very knowledgeable, very professional, but it's not documented.
Right.
You don't pull a permit.
Right.
You don't have engineering drawings for that. That if the structure fails, there's a liability either to the contractor or to the engineer who did the drawings.
Sure.
So that is part of the reason, and people think, oh, it's going to be so much expensive. Not really. Let's develop your budget.
Yeah.
And let's give you, because many of us, when we buy our house, we make a huge sacrifice.
Right.
Just to provide a roof for our family. So why don't you, let's go out there and let you know, like you were saying, the unknown. Let's talk about the white elephant in the room.
Yeah. And
this is what you're going to have.
Yeah. Figure out the solution.
And see if this is the right deal for you or not.
Yeah. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about, like, you mentioned the down south, the hurricane devastation that we recently had, and how, that almost came our direction in our area. So it's hard to fathom, it's hard enough to see like some friends and families in other homes, just 2 hours south of us that are, devastated like that. It's even harder to imagine it, in your own backyard or your own home and that sort of stuff. But what are some ways, like what's the best way to go about preparing your home for a situation like that? And maybe it's probably more than just, let's put shutters up on the window, right? Like taking the steps over the next couple of years to make sure that your home is in the best position that it can be in case something like that does happen.
So, and that's a great question, Donnie. I mean, we can be here days talking about this, but the way I can bring everything together between home inspection and construction and building code. Let's take the famous inspection out there, the wind mitigation.
Yeah.
Buyers get a wind mitigation just because the agent said that they need it, or the homeowner's insurance said, I need a wind mitigation.
Yeah.
Well, basically, it's to secure the property from blowing out.
Right.
Depends on the zone. So the state of Florida is a peninsula, okay? And it's got 5 different zones based on the wind speeds. Obviously, the coastal is the most, at risk, so it's zone 1. So everything's got to be designed and built to withstand at least, 150 plus miles an hour winds,
okay.
155 or so. There's some cases that there's still damages, even on homes that are like that. Well, most of the damages are either wind damage that shingles fly off.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big thing because you have an underlayment underneath that.
Yeah.
Prevents water intrusion. Or maybe, I don't know, a tree branch broke off and hit your roof. It's those projectiles that causes the damages. But the structure itself, the shell, should be in good standing.
Yeah.
So therefore, the way engineers and Florida building code design, they design from the top to the bottom. Okay. Mixing in here a little bit of engineering.
Yeah.
So basically, based on the type of house and the shape of the roof is very significant. That's why when you have a hip roof or, the type of roof that it slopes down, it has no gables.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are the preferred one for home insurance companies because they're a little bit more aerodynamic.
Yeah.
So this depends on all these categories, the type of roof, the size of the house, and the weight. That's how they design the walls and the footers, the foundation.
Okay.
So with that being said, that's basically how you have your cell.
And all of that's tied together, right? So like the walls are tied to the foundation, the roof is tied to the walls so that it all stays in that shell, like you were saying.
Absolutely. I mean, you have your rebar embedded in the concrete. And by the way, all this gets inspected.
Mm-hmm.
Not only you can have a third-party inspection, which is an engineering firm, which in most cases are the ones that made the drawings,
mm-hmm.
but you have the county or the city that each phase they have to come out and they have to inspect that what you put in there is what the engineer called out in the drawings.
Yeah.
So all that rebar and the type of concrete that those rebars goes through the walls and then they tie to the roof trusses, making it, impossible to pull out,
mm-hmm.
or at least very resistant to the winds. So when you have people alter a structure or a property, you lose the integrity of that engineering.
Of the original engineering, yeah.
And that, that causes weakness.
Yeah.
That, and keep in mind also, we live in a big swamp.
Right, yeah.
So we don't even have solid dirt. We have
Right.
sand everywhere. You start digging and it's sand and everything's collapsing as you start digging.
I know, yeah.
You try to plant a tree and you dig in the hole and the sand is going back in and you end up doing a bigger hole. So, that's also put into consideration at the time of designing the structure. So, wall settles, people freak out. Oh, my house has cracks. Well, there's settling cracks or, there's certain things. And can they be avoided? They could. But they're almost always there in a Florida home.
Right. It's part of the environment. Can you, look, so you have, let's say you have an older home. Is there something that can be done to, or maybe you have an addition, right? An older home or addition on a home that wasn't properly done to code, right? It's already finished and everything like that. You're buying the home, but now you want to update it and update the integrity of the home. Like, is there something that you can do with that's, I guess, kind of cost effective without like ripping out walls and doing all that whole renovation there?
In most cases, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can call it, for lack of better terms, retrofitting a home.
Okay.
And in many cases, people buy an older property and they want to do an addition.
Yeah.
Depends on the existing condition of the property. The jurisdiction from where you're pulling the permit from, once you turn in your drawings, it goes through a plans review process, and the county or the city plans reviewer will get back to you and say, hey, I need you to retrofit the rest of the house.
Okay.
Or, for example, very typical on older homes, I need you to do a full electrical rewire because the existing utilities, systems, or whatever are not up to current code, and it's a risk. And most of the time, that also depends, which is one of the things I try to explain to potential investors. In many cases, there's phasing that we can do that. And you can work with the county on that and let them know, say, hey, this is going to be phase one of 2 or 3 phases because of a cash flow thing.
Sure.
They're human. They understand. I mean, unless the house is in really bad shape, at that point, it's like, okay,
you got to do it all.
You got to do it all. But most cases, depends on the level, 1, 2, or 3 of the renovation being done. It's pretty much the feedback you're going to get from the
county reviewer. Right. Okay.
And they will dictate how much of the existing structure you have to reinforce. Which, with that being said, for the roof, on all the roof, which is a very typical phase 1, most cost effective, not only to secure your roof, but also to drop your homeowner's insurance, is what they call the retrofitting of the roof.
Okay.
Which is ensuring that the tie-in points between roof to wall connections are up to current building code.
Okay.
And once you do that, you see the drop in your homeowner's insurance, which I usually call it a small investment, and then you get your ROI within a couple of years. Because let's say you start saving $5,000-$7,000 a year, and you're probably spending $2,000-$4,000. I tend to tell them it's usually a good ROI.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because it secures the home.
Yes, sir.
And then you're saving money at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but yes, to your point, yes, you can take it to different levels.
Yep. I like that. That's super helpful. So you've been in this area for 2 years now?
Almost 3. Yes,
almost
sir.
3 years.
Yeah, almost 3.
And born and raised in Puerto Rico. So one thing I like to ask everybody at the end of the podcast is like one of their favorite spots in the area. So it could be a restaurant, it could be a local park, or the beach or something like that. But if you had to pick one spot and you're like, I'm going to take care of Pablo, this is what I'm going to go do, like, where are you going?
It's hard to pick just one.
Yeah.
Because I can give you 2 or 3 per category, and I'm still learning places. But definitely one of the things we loved the most when we moved, we started coming to Palm Harbor, is Three Rooker.
Oh, Three Rooker.
The islands.
Yeah.
We love the islands. We just, any chance we have on the weekends just to go out for a little while. I mean, even though there's other boats and people around. People out there are so friendly. You always meeting new people,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids are playing, or the dogs go out and they're doing their thing, and just seeing, dolphins, manatees, fishes. It's just a blessing. And you want to go find me. If I'm not at home, go check out Three Rooker. I should be somewhere on the south end.
Yeah, that's a great spot, and it's like going out to those barrier islands it's almost like a different, like you don't expect it to be like so close to like home in this area, right? But it's like you go out there and it's completely different than like the intercoastal area, but it's a pretty cool spot.
For us, it's magical because even the weather forecast,
right,
on the summer, you could be here in Palm Harbor, and I live on the northern side.
Yeah.
And you can see the forecast. It's like, 3 o'clock, we have 70% chance of showers. You're out in the barrier islands, and you're looking inland, and you see the storm coming down.
Yep.
And you're sitting on the sand, on the beach, on the island.
In the sun.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's magical. So that's one of the many things that we love of the area.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you? And we'll link all this in the description below. But
definitely. Yeah. Phone call, email.
Cool. So we'll check it out in the description. But Pablo, thank you so much for doing this.
Honor being here, and I'm here to help Palm Harbor.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to another episode of Palm Harbor Local. I really hope you got a ton of value out of today's episode. Now, if you're looking to connect with the guest or just get more information on the episode, then you can check the description below. I'll have all the links in the episode as well as a link back to my website. It's palmharborlocal.com, where you can stay up to date on what's going on with the podcast and sign up there to join the locals. Let's get after it this week, and remember, together, we keep Palm Harbor local.